In the dusty outskirts of a small Texas town, Eden Morales' world crumbles like the dry earth beneath her feet. Once a woman full of hope and dreams, she loses everything in one devastating blow: her unborn twins, her marriage, and the roof over her head. Cast out by a husband who blamed her for their loss, she stumbles through a raging storm with nowhere to go. But fate has a way of leading lost souls to exactly where they need to be. When Graham Holt, a wealthy rancher bearing his own deep scars, finds her collapsed at the edge of his vast property, neither realizes that this moment will change both their lives forever. Two broken hearts, each scarred by different tragedies, about to cross paths in the most unexpected way. Could a chance encounter during life's darkest hour become the very thing that saves them both? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The small white stick trembled in Eden's hands as two pink lines appeared, clear as sunrise over Texas plains. She sank to the bathroom floor, pressing her fingers to her lips to contain a joy so pure it brought tears to her eyes. Twins. The doctor's words from yesterday's appointment still rang in her ears, a melody sweeter than any she'd ever heard. But that melody turned discordant as footsteps approached, Clayton's heavy boots on hardwood. Eden quickly wrapped the test in tissue, tucking it into her pocket. Her husband's mood had grown increasingly unpredictable over the past year, his warmth vanishing like morning dew under a harsh sun. "What are you doing in there?" Clayton's voice carried that edge she'd learned to fear. "I need the truck keys, now." "Coming," she called, smoothing her shirt over her still flat stomach. The secret within felt like a butterfly she needed to protect. In the kitchen, Clayton stood with his arms crossed, jaw set in familiar displeasure. Eden handed him the keys, trying to gauge his mood. Maybe now was the moment. Maybe the news of their babies would bring back the man she'd married 3 years ago. "Clayton, I need to tell you something." She reached for his hand, but he pulled away, checking his watch. "Make it quick. I'm late. I'm pregnant." The words rushed out. "With twins." The silence that followed felt endless. Clayton's expression didn't change, save for a slight narrowing of his eyes. "Twins," he repeated flatly. "You sure know how to complicate things, don't you?" Eden's heart cracked. "What do you mean? 2 mouths to feed, double the doctor bills, and you can barely keep this house in order as it is." He grabbed his jacket. "Figure out how we're going to afford this. I've got work." The door slammed behind him, leaving Eden alone with her shattered dreams. She pressed her hand to her stomach, whispering a promise. "It's okay, little ones. Mama's here." But promises, like hearts, can break. Over the following weeks, Clayton's criticism grew sharper, his absences longer. Every attempt to discuss the babies or their future met with cold silence or cruel words. The stress built like storm clouds on the horizon. At 4 months, the cramping started. Eden tried calling Clayton once, twice, 20 times. When she finally reached him, his response cut deeper than any physical pain. "Deal with it yourself. I'm busy." The hospital waiting room was lonely. The doctor's words were gentle but final. Both babies lost. Eden's world collapsed into a void of grief, empty arms aching for the children she'd never hold. When Clayton finally came home that night, he found her curled on their bed, still in her hospital gown. His reaction wasn't what she'd expected. Not anger, but something worse: indifference. "Well," he said, leaning against the doorframe, "maybe it's for the best. You weren't ready to be a mother anyway." Eden stared at him, seeing clearly for the first time the stranger wearing her husband's face. "How can you say that? Truth hurts, doesn't it?" He turned away. "Clean yourself up, and don't expect me to pay those hospital bills. Your mistake, your problem." That night, Eden cried herself to sleep. The next morning, she found her clothes in garbage bags on the front porch, along with a note. "Don't come back." With nowhere else to go and storm clouds gathering overhead, Eden grabbed what she could carry and started walking. The first drops of rain felt like tears from heaven itself, mourning with her for all she'd lost. As thunder rolled across the Texas sky, Eden Morales disappeared into the storm, leaving behind a life that had become as hollow as the promises Clayton had made at the altar. Graham Holt's morning routine hadn't changed in 5 years. Each dawn found him on his porch, watching the sun paint the Texas sky while his coffee grew cold, untouched. The brass compass in his pocket, Sarah's last gift, weighed heavy as always. He pulled it out, thumb tracing the worn inscription, "Find your way back to joy." Some promises were harder to keep than others. The ranch hands knew better than to greet him before he finished his morning vigil. They'd learned early that their boss preferred silence to small talk, efficiency to friendship. The locals called him the ghost of Thunder Creek Ranch, a man more shadow than substance since the accident that took his wife and daughter, Mr. Holt. Maria, his housekeeper of 20 years, was the only one who dared interrupt these moments. "The north fence needs checking. Rodriguez said he saw damage from yesterday's storm." Graham nodded, pocketing the compass. "I'll handle it." Inside his truck, he caught his reflection in the rearview mirror, grey, threading through his dark hair, lines etched deep around his eyes. Sarah would have teased him about them, called them his wisdom marks. Jenny would have counted them, giggling as she traced each one with her small finger. The memory hit like a physical blow. 5 years, and it still felt like yesterday. The drive to the north fence took him past the old oak where they'd built Jenny's treehouse, past the pond where he'd taught her to fish, past the meadow where Sarah had insisted on having picnics every Sunday, rain or shine. Each landmark a reminder of the life he'd lost when a drunk driver decided to take the curve too fast on Route 12. Thunder Creek Ranch was his sanctuary and his prison. 3,000 acres of the finest grazing land in Texas, and not a single corner where he could escape their ghosts. Rodriguez was waiting by the damaged fence, but knew better than to offer more than a quiet, "Morning, boss." Graham appreciated that about his ranch hands. They understood the value of silence. As they worked, Graham's mind wandered to last night's town council meeting. Eleanor Jenkins, the mayor's wife, had cornered him again with her not-so-subtle hints about her newly divorced daughter. "A man shouldn't be alone forever," she'd said, patting his arm with grandmotherly concern that fooled no one. Sarah would have wanted. He'd cut her off there. Nobody got to tell him what Sarah would have wanted. Not Eleanor Jenkins, not his own mother, not even Maria, who'd known Sarah since she was a bride of 22. The compass pressed against his thigh as he hammered the last post into place. Sarah had given it to him on their last anniversary, just 3 weeks before the accident. "For when you lose your way," she'd teased, eyes bright with love and laughter. "Though with your stubborn sense of direction, you'll probably never use it." She'd been wrong about that. He'd never felt more lost than in the years since she'd been gone. Back at the main house, Maria had left lunch on his desk, a sandwich he wouldn't eat, like most days. The stack of paperwork beside it demanded attention. Bills, contracts, letters from developers wanting to turn parts of his land into luxury homes. He'd rather muck out stalls than deal with any of it. Instead, he found himself in Jenny's room, preserved exactly as she'd left it. Purple walls, horse posters, the collection of seashells from their last beach vacation. Her riding helmet still hung on its hook, waiting for a head it would never again protect. "Mr. Holt," Maria's voice, gentle but firm. "The bank called. They need your signature on those documents before end of day." Reality beckoned, as it always, and did. Graham closed the door on Jenny's room, on the memories, on the ache that never quite went away. There was work to be done, a ranch to run, responsibilities that didn't care about his grief. But as storm clouds gathered on the horizon, promising another Texas tempest, Graham couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. The compass in his pocket seemed to grow warmer, as if trying to tell him something. Sarah had always said everything happens for a reason. He'd stopped believing that the night he lost them both. But as thunder rolled across Thunder Creek Ranch, Nature itself seemed to be announcing the arrival of something or someone that would challenge everything Graham thought he knew about loss, healing, and the possibility of second chances. The storm hit Thunder Creek Ranch like God's own fury. Graham stood at his office window, watching lightning split the sky into jagged pieces. These Texas storms usually brought him peace, nature's way of drowning out the silence that haunted his empty house. But tonight felt different, restless. Mr. Holt. Maria appeared in the doorway, her face tight with concern. Rodriguez called. The horses are spooked bad. He's worried about the new fence line holding. Graham grabbed his raincoat. I'll check it myself. Go home before the roads get worse. But that's not a suggestion, Maria. The rain hit him like bullets as he stepped outside, the wind trying to tear his coat away. His truck's headlights cut twin paths through the darkness as he navigated the familiar roads of his property. The new fence line was nearly 2 miles out, the very edge of his land, bordering the old county road. Lightning flashed, illuminating the countryside in stark white. That's when he saw it. A shape crumpled near the fence, too small to be livestock, too still to be anything good. Graham's first instinct was to drive past. Whatever trouble this was, it wasn't his. He'd learned the hard way that getting involved only led to more pain. But Sarah's compass seemed to burn in his pocket, and he could almost hear Jenny's voice. "Daddy, someone needs help." Cursing under his breath, he pulled over. The rain had plastered a mud-stained shawl to the woman's form. She was face down in the grass, unmoving. For one terrible moment he thought she was dead. Then she stirred, just slightly, and Graham found himself moving before he could think better of it. He knelt beside her, gently turning her over. She was young, maybe early 30s, with dark hair plastered to a face pale as moonlight. Her skin felt ice-cold. "Mom, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered, but didn't open. Her lips moved, forming. Words he couldn't hear over the storm's rage. "Damn it!" Graham shrugged off his coat, wrapping it around her. "Don't you dare die on my property. I've got enough ghosts already." She was lighter than she should have been as he lifted her into his arms, malnourished, his mind supplied. Her clothes were soaked through, cheap fabric that had offered no real protection from the elements. No purse, no phone, no identification that he could see. Just a woman who looked like she'd been through hell before the storm ever found her. The drive back to the main house felt endless. Every few minutes he glanced at his passenger, slumped against the window. She hadn't stirred since he'd moved her, but her breathing seemed steady enough. His hand found the compass in his pocket. "This isn't my problem," he told it, feeling foolish for talking to an inanimate object. But he could imagine Sarah's response, clear as day. "Since when does helping someone in need have to be your problem?" The house lights blazed through the rain. Maria had ignored his orders to leave, thank God. She appeared on the porch as he carried the unconscious woman inside. "Santa Maria, what happened?" "Found her by the north fence. Called Doc Wilson. The phones are down." Of course they were. Graham headed for the guest room, unused since his mother's last guilty conscience visit 2 years ago. "Then get me a blanket in the house, and dry clothes." Maria disappeared, efficient as always. Graham laid the woman on the bed, uncomfortable with how intimate this felt. He hadn't been this close to a woman since Sarah, hadn't allowed himself to be. In the lamplight, he could see her clearly for the first time. She was beautiful, in a fragile way that suggested she hadn't always been so. Dark bruises shadowed her arms, some old, some new. Graham's jaw tightened. He recognized those marks, had seen similar ones on too many women who'd passed through the shelter where Sarah used to volunteer. Maria returned with an armload of blankets and one of her own nightgowns. "Out!" she ordered, brooking no argument. "I'll take care of her now." Graham retreated to his office, but sleep was impossible. The storm raged on, matching his turbulent thoughts. Who was she? What had brought her to his land? And most importantly, what the hell was he supposed to do with her once she woke up? The compass sat heavy in his pocket, offering no answers, but for the first time in 5 years, Thunder Creek Ranch felt a little less empty, a little less haunted, and Graham Holt couldn't decide if that was a comfort or a curse. Eden woke to unfamiliar softness. Her fingers traced patterns on fabric too fine to be hospital sheets, too clean to be a shelter cot. Panic fluttered in her chest as consciousness brought clarity. She was in a stranger's bed. Memory returned in fragments. The storm, endless walking, falling. Then nothing. "Ah, you're awake." A woman's voice, warm with a hint of Spanish accent. "I'm Maria. You're safe at Thunder Creek Ranch." Eden tried to sit up, but her body protested. Maria's gentle hand on her shoulder kept her in place. "Easy, Mijita. You've been sleeping for 2 days. The doctor said you were exhausted, dehydrated." "Doctor?" Eden's voice cracked. Maria handed her a glass of water. "Dr. Wilson, don't worry about the cost. Mr. Holt took care of it." The water soothed Eden's throat, but the mention of a man's name made her tense. "Mr. Holt? The owner of this ranch. He found you in the storm." Maria busied herself with an antique quilt, spreading it over Eden's legs. This was his mother's. She made it for his wife Sarah as a wedding gift. Eden's fingers traced the intricate stitching. "Was?" Maria's eyes softened with old grief. "They're gone now, 5 years. Mr. Holt, he keeps to himself mostly. But he's a good man." As if summoned by his name, heavy footsteps approached the door. Eden instinctively pulled the quilt higher. Graham. Holt filled the doorframe like a storm cloud, tall, broad-shouldered, with grey-streaked dark hair and eyes that seemed to see too much. Eden fought the urge to shrink away. "You're awake." His voice was deep but careful, like he was talking to a spooked horse. "How are you feeling?" Eden swallowed hard. "Thank you for helping me. I can't pay you back right now, but—" "Stop." One word, firm but not unkind. "Nobody's asking for payment." Maria shot him a look that clearly said, "Be gentle." "Mr. Holt, perhaps our guest would like some breakfast. I made fresh tortillas." Graham nodded, already retreating. "Maria will help you with whatever you need. Stay as long as it takes to get back on your feet." The door closed behind him, and Eden released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "He's not always so." Maria waved her hand, searching for the word. "Intimidating, awkward." Maria smiled. "He forgets how to act around people sometimes. Now let's get some food in you." The next few days fell into a gentle rhythm. Maria brought meals and conversation, helping Eden regain her strength. Through the window, Eden watched ranch life unfold. Cowboys moving cattle, horses in the paddocks, Graham's truck coming and going. She learned the ranch's rhythms: breakfast at dawn, dinner at dusk, the afternoon lull when even the Texas sun seemed to need a break. Maria's stories painted pictures of the ranch's history. The Holt family had worked this land for 4 generations. Graham remained a shadow presence, checking in briefly each evening. He never asked why she'd been in the storm, never pressed. For details she wasn't ready to give, but sometimes she caught him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read, like he was trying to solve a puzzle he wasn't sure he wanted to complete. A week into her stay, Eden's strength returned, enough to venture onto the wraparound porch. The evening air carried the scent of sage and approaching rain. She found Graham there, looking out over his land. "I should leave soon," she said quietly. "I've imposed enough." He didn't look at her. "Where will you go?" The question hung between them, heavy with things unsaid. Eden's silence was answer enough. "The ranch needs help," he said finally. "Maria's not as young as she used to be. Stay, work, build something new." Eden stared at him, this man who offered salvation wrapped in practicality. Why? Now he did turn, and in the fading light she saw something familiar in his eyes, the same haunted look she saw in her own mirror. Because sometimes people deserve a second chance. Thunder rumbled in the distance, but Eden didn't flinch this time. The storm that had brought her here had changed everything. Perhaps this one, gathering on the horizon, would too. she touched. Sarah's quilt draped around her shoulders like a shield. I don't know anything about ranch work. You'll learn. He turned back to the sunset. We all did. It wasn't quite hope she felt then. That emotion was still too raw, too dangerous. But as the first drops of rain began to fall, Eden thought, maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something like it. Dawn painted the Texas sky in watercolors when Eden found Graham in the stable. He stood before an old western saddle mounted on a wooden rack, its leather worn smooth by decades of use. My father's, he said without turning. He taught me to ride on this saddle. Said a cowboy's only as good as his connection to his horse. Eden ran her fingers over the tooled leather. It's beautiful. It's yours. Now he did turn, holding out a pair of work gloves. If you're going to work here, you need to learn to ride. Her heart jumped. Everyone starts somewhere. He lifted the saddle with practiced ease. Come on, time to meet Bonnie. Bonnie turned out to be a copper-colored mare with gentle eyes and infinite patience. Graham led her to the round pen, explaining each step as he saddled her. Watch everything, he instructed. Tomorrow you'll do this yourself. Eden absorbed every detail, how to check the girth, where to position the stirrups, the proper way to lead a horse. Graham's teaching style was quiet but thorough, his hands demonstrating what words couldn't quite capture. Ready? He offered, his cupped hands as a mounting assist. Eden hesitated. The last time she'd trusted a man's hands, they'd pushed her away. But Graham's eyes held no judgment, only steady patience. She placed her boot in his hands and found herself lifted smoothly. Into the saddle. The height made her dizzy for a moment, until Graham's hand on her knee steadied her. Breathe, he reminded her. Bonnie knows if you're nervous. Eden forced air into her lungs, trying to find her balance. The saddle felt alien beneath her, but Bonnie stood perfectly still. Good. Graham adjusted her grip on the reins. Now remember what I showed you. Gentle pressure with your legs means walk on. Pull back slightly on the reins to stop. For the next hour, he led them around the pen, teaching Eden the basics of riding. His voice became her anchor, helping her find confidence with each circle. You're a natural, he said as she successfully guided Bonnie through her first solo. Walk. The praise, unexpected and genuine, warmed something long cold inside her. The morning stretched into afternoon. Eden learned to trot, to turn, to understand Bonnie's subtle responses to her commands. Each small victory felt enormous. That's enough for today, Graham finally called. Need to save something for tomorrow. Eden's legs shook as she dismounted, muscles she'd never known she had protesting the new activity. But beneath the ache was something else. Pride. Thank you, she said, helping Graham unsaddle Bonnie. For teaching me. He nodded, that almost smile touching his lips. You did the work. I just showed you how. Maria was waiting on the porch with lemonade and knowing eyes. So, how was your first riding lesson? Incredible. Eden sank into a chair, grateful for the cool drink. I never thought I could be... Words caught in her throat. Could what, Majita? Feel strong again. Maria and Graham exchanged a look Eden couldn't quite read. Then Graham cleared his throat. Rest up. Tomorrow we start earlier. Lots more to learn. Over the next weeks, Eden's days filled with new skills. Graham taught her about fence repair, cattle movements, reading weather patterns. The ranch hands, following their boss's lead, shared their knowledge freely. But it was the mornings she treasured most. Dawn rides with Graham, learning the ranch's boundaries. He rarely spoke during these rides, but the silence felt comfortable, like a shared language. Sometimes, though, he'd point out special places. The creek where he'd learned to fish, the old oak his grandfather had planted, the hill where wildflowers bloomed first each spring. Each story was a small gift, a piece of himself offered without expectation. The nightmares still came. Clayton's voice, the loss of her babies, the crushing weight of failure. But now, when she woke gasping, she could look out her window and see the stable where Bonnie waited, could remember the feeling of sitting tall in the saddle, strong and capable. One morning, as they rode along the north fence, Graham pulled up his horse. "You're ready for more responsibility. Rodriguez needs help with the cattle counts." Eden straightened in her saddle, recognizing the trust he was offering. "I won't let you down." "I know." He turned his horse toward home, but not before she caught that almost smile again. "You haven't yet." The words followed her through the day, a warmth in her chest no Texas sun could match. Here, among the sage and dust and endless sky, Eden was learning more than just ranch work. She was learning who she could be without fear shadowing every step. That night, cleaning her father-in-law's old saddle, her saddle now, Eden realized something had shifted. The ranch no longer felt like a temporary shelter. It felt like possibility. The yellowed newspaper clipping fluttered from between the pages of the ranch ledger Eden was organizing. "Local rancher loses wife and daughter in tragic accident," the headline declared. Below it, a photo showed a younger Graham with a beautiful woman and a small girl, all smiles and bright eyes. Eden's hands trembled as she read, "Sarah Holt, 34, and Jennifer Holt, 8, were killed instantly when a drunk driver crossed the median on Route 12. The rest blurred as tears filled her eyes. That was taken a week before. Graham's voice from the doorway made her jump. She hadn't heard him approach. "I'm so sorry," Eden stammered, trying to return the clipping. "I didn't mean to pry." But Graham entered the office fully, taking the fragile paper with careful fingers. Sarah loved that photo, said it captured Jenny's laugh perfectly. His thumb traced his daughter's face. "She had my eyes but her mother's spirit. Wild as a March wind." Eden recognized the look in his eyes, the same hollow ache she felt when thinking of her twins. "What was she like?" she asked softly. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sank into the chair across from her desk. "Jenny, she was sunshine in cowboy boots, wanted to learn everything about the ranch. Sarah used to joke that she came out of the womb asking about cattle breeds." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "The morning of, she was so excited. Had a science project about butterflies. Sarah was driving her to school early to set it up." He stopped, the weight of memory pressing down like a physical thing. "You don't have to." 5 years, he continued, as if he hadn't heard her. 5 years. "And sometimes I still wake up thinking I hear Jenny calling for breakfast, or Sarah's laugh in the kitchen." Eden's hand moved of its own accord, covering his where it rested on the desk. He stiffened, but didn't pull away. "I lost twins," she whispered, the words she hadn't spoken since that horrible night. 4 months along. Clayton, my husband, he blamed me, said I wasn't fit to be a mother." Graham's hand turned under hers, gripping her fingers. "He was wrong." "How? Do you know?" "Because I've seen you with the new calves, with Maria's grandkids when they visit. You have a mother's heart, Eden. Nobody can take that from you." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I never even got to hold them, but you carry them," Graham said quietly. "Like I carry Jenny and Sarah. Maybe that's all any of us can do. Carry our loves, our losses, and keep moving forward." Lightning flickered in the distance, promising another Texas storm. But neither moved to break the connection of their joined hands. "Sarah would have liked you," Graham said finally. "She always said this ranch needed more strong women." "I don't feel strong." "That's because strength isn't about not breaking. It's about how you put yourself back together." He released her hand, standing. "Come on, I want to show you something." They walked to the small family cemetery on the hill behind the main house. Among the older Holt graves stood a newer stone, polished granite bearing 2 names. Graham knelt, brushing leaves from its base. "I come here every morning," he admitted. "Used to spend hours talking to them, asking why, begging for answers that never came." He touched the stone gently. "Took me 3 years to realize they wouldn't want that. Sarah and Jenny. They'd want the ranch to keep thriving. Want me to keep living." Eden knelt beside him, reading the inscription. "Beloved wife and daughter, their love lights our way home. That's why you helped me that night," she said softly. "In the storm." Graham nodded. "Sarah would have never forgiven me if I'd driven past someone in need." She was always taking in strays, people and animals alike. Said everyone deserves a chance to find their way home. Thunder rolled closer, and the first drops of rain began to fall. But they stayed a moment longer, two broken people sharing the weight of grief, finding unexpected comfort in their shared understanding. Later that night, Eden added her own memorial to her bedside table. A small origami butterfly Maria had taught her to make, a reminder of both what she'd lost and what she might still find. Outside her window, the storm washed the world clean, as if preparing it for something new to grow. The ranch ledger lay open on Eden's desk, its neat columns telling the story of Thunder Creek in numbers and notes. She'd spent the morning learning the business side of ranching from Graham, his patient explanations helping her understand the rhythm of seasonal expenses and income. "You have a good head for figures," he said, watching her calculate the quarterly projections. "Better than mine." Eden smiled, remembering her accounting classes from before Clayton had convinced her to drop out of college. "I always loved working. With numbers, they make sense, they don't lie. Then maybe you can make sense of this." Graham slid a stack of invoices across the desk. "Feed costs are up 30% from last year. We need to find ways to trim the budget without compromising quality." The trust implicit in that "we" warmed her more than the Texas sun streaming through the window. 2 months ago, she'd been homeless, hopeless. Now she was helping manage one of the largest ranches in the county. Eden immersed herself in the work, losing track of time until Maria appeared with lunch. "The Robinson sisters are here," she announced. "They want to discuss their grazing lease." Graham groaned softly. The elderly Robinson sisters were notorious for turning simple business meetings into hours-long social calls. "Eden, would you handle it?" She straightened her shirt, suddenly nervous. "Are you sure?" His almost smile appeared. "You know the numbers better than I do now. Just don't let them talk you into any more pie competitions." The Robinson sisters, Beatrice and Martha, had been leasing Thunder Creek grazing land for their small cattle operation for 3 decades. They sat in the front parlor like queens on their throne, examining Eden with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "So," Beatrice said after pleasantries were exchanged, "you're the one who's been putting color back in Graham Holt's world." Eden felt, her cheeks warm. "I just help with the books." "Honey," Martha patted her hand, "you do far more than that. This place hasn't felt this alive since Sarah and Jenny passed." "Now," Beatrice pulled out her reading glasses, "about that lease." An hour later, Eden had negotiated a fair rate that helped both parties, learned the history of every family in 3 counties, and somehow agreed to judge the parish bake sale next month. "Well done," Graham said when she reported back. "They've never settled terms that quickly before. They're good people." Eden showed him the agreement. "And they told me things about the ranch's history I never knew. Did you know your grandfather used to—" A truck pulling up outside cut her off. Through the window, they watched Rodriguez help his wife Lisa unload covered dishes. "Maria's birthday dinner," Graham explained. "The Hands and their families always celebrate together." Eden started to excuse herself. Surely this was for long-term ranch family only. But Graham caught her arm. "You should join us. You're part of Thunder Creek now." The evening unfolded like a flower opening to sunshine. The Hands children played tag around the barn while their parents shared food and stories. Eden found herself drawn into conversations about cattle prices, weather patterns, and local gossip. Lisa Rodriguez taught her the secret to perfect tortillas. Old Joe, the ranch foreman, regaled her with tales of Graham as a boy, learning to ride and getting into mischief. Even the newest ranch hand's shy teenage daughter sought her advice about a school problem. Watching it all, Graham leaned against the barn door with an expression Eden had never seen before. Peace, maybe, or contentment. When Maria brought out her birthday cake glowing with candles, the entire Thunder Creek family sang together under the stars. Later, helping clean up, Eden felt Maria's knowing eyes on her. "What?" "Nothing, mijita." The older woman smiled. "Just thinking how right You look here, like a piece of a puzzle finally fitting where it belongs. Eden glanced around the ranch yard. At the barn where Bonnie waited in her stall, the office where she was helping build Thunder Creek's future, the people who had become more than co-workers. Her gaze found Graham, still talking with old Joe, and her heart did that strange flutter it had been doing lately when he was near. "I never thought I'd find this," she admitted quietly, "a place where I could be me, just me." Maria squeezed her hand. "Sometimes the best things in life find us when we're not looking for them." That night, Eden added her first official entry to the ranch ledger, her handwriting joining the generations of Holts who had recorded Thunder Creek's story. Outside, crickets sang their evening chorus, and somewhere in the distance, coyotes called to the rising moon. She was home. The realization should have frightened her. She'd thought that once before, with Clayton. But this was different. This wasn't about belonging to someone. This was about belonging to herself, and to a place that had helped her remember who she was meant to be. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, mixed in with feed invoices and cattle sale notices. Eden almost missed it. A plain, white envelope with her name written in handwriting she'd hoped never to see again. Her hands shook as she read, "I know where you are. Did you think you could hide forever? Playing cowgirl with that rich rancher won't change what you are. Nothing. You belong with me. Don't make me come get you." Clayton's words struck like physical blows. The office walls seemed to close in, the air growing thick and hard to breathe. "Eden?" Graham's voice from the doorway snapped her back to reality. She tried to hide the letter, but he'd already seen her face. "What's wrong?" She couldn't speak, just held out the paper. Graham read it, his expression darkening like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. When he looked up, his eyes held a dangerous calm. "How did he find me?" Her voice sounded distant, strange. "Small towns talk." Graham crumpled the letter. "But you're safe here." Eden wanted to believe him, but Clayton's words had awakened old fears, reminding her how easily he could destroy the peace she'd found. "You don't know him. What he's capable of—" "No," Graham interrupted, his voice gentle but firm. "You don't know us. What we're capable of." As if summoned by his words, Maria appeared in the doorway. One look at Eden's face told her everything. "Mija, what's happened?" Before Eden could answer, boots sounded on the porch. Rodriguez and old Joe stepped in, followed by 3 other ranch hands. Their arrival wasn't coincidence, Eden realized. They'd seen Graham's truck race back to the house and known something was wrong. "Clayton found her," Graham explained simply. The change in the room was immediate. Old Joe's weathered face hardened. Rodriguez crossed his arms, his usually cheerful expression gone serious. Even Maria straightened, looking less like a housekeeper and more like a mother bear protecting her cub. "Let him come," old Joe said quietly. "Been a while since we had any excitement around here." "Nobody's coming for one of ours," Rodriguez added. "Not on our watch." Eden stared at them, these people who'd become her family without her even noticing. "I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking," Graham cut in. "We're telling." Maria took Eden's trembling hands in hers. "When my Carlos died, leaving me alone with 3 small children, this ranch took care of us. That's what family does. Family," Eden repeated softly, testing the word. "Family," Graham confirmed. He turned to the men. "Joe, double the evening patrols. Rodriguez, call your brother at the sheriff's office. Let him know what's happening. The rest of you, spread the word. Any stranger comes sniffing around, we want to know." They moved with purpose, each knowing their role. Eden watched them go, overwhelmed by their immediate, unquestioning support. "Come," Maria tugged her hand. "You'll stay in the main house tonight. Your room's too isolated." Eden started to protest, but Graham's expression stopped her. "Please," he said, "it would make us all feel better." That night, unable to sleep, Eden stood at the window of the guest room, Sarah's old sewing room, now rarely used. The ranch stretched out under moonlight, peaceful despite the guards she knew patrolled its boundaries. A soft knock drew her. "Attention." Graham stood in the doorway, looking uncertain for the first time since she'd known him. "I thought you might want this." He held out a small box. Inside lay a cell phone. "Everyone's numbers are programmed in," he explained. "One button connects you to all of us. You're not alone anymore, Eden." She clutched the phone like a lifeline. "I never thanked you properly, for everything." "You don't have to." He hesitated, then added, "Sarah always said gratitude was just love, with good manners, and family doesn't need either." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning neither was ready to explore. But as Graham bid her good night, Eden felt something shift inside her, fear giving way to something stronger. Clayton's letter lay in ashes in the fireplace, but its threat remained. Yet somehow, surrounded by the strength of her newfound family, Eden felt less like prey and more like someone worth protecting, worth fighting for. Outside, a coyote called, a lonely sound. But it was answered by others, a chorus of voices saying, "You're not alone." Eden thought she understood them now, these wild creatures who survived by staying together, protecting their own. She was part of a pack now, and no matter what Clayton planned, he would learn what that meant. The rhythmic sound of brush against horsehide filled the stable's morning quiet. Eden worked Bonnie's coat until it gleamed, each stroke a meditation. She'd started rising before dawn since Clayton's letter, finding peace in these solitary moments. "With the horses, your form's improving." Graham's voice startled her, but she didn't jump anymore. "Progress," Maria would say. He leaned against the stall door, 2 mugs of coffee in hand. "Rodriguez says you've been helping with the morning feed runs." Eden accepted the coffee, inhaling its rich warmth. "I like being useful." "You were always useful." His voice held a hint of reproach. "But I understand wanting to be stronger." She met his eyes then, surprised by his perception. "Is it that obvious?" I recognized the look. "Saw it in the mirror enough after." He didn't finish, didn't need to. "Come on, there's something I want to show you." He led her to a back room in the barn she'd never entered. Inside, a punching bag hung from the ceiling, surrounded by various exercise equipment. "Sarah's idea," Graham explained, running a hand along the bag. "Said every woman should know how to throw a proper punch. Maria's been asking to teach you." Eden remembered Maria mentioning her background in self-defense training, how she taught classes at the women's shelter in town. "You think I'll need it? I think you need to know you can handle whatever comes." He stepped back. "Maria will be here at 10. The lessons became part of her daily routine. Maria proved to be a demanding but patient teacher, showing Eden how to use her smaller size to her advantage, how to break holds, how to fall safely. "Men like Clayton," Maria said one morning, adjusting Eden's stance, "they count on fear. On making you feel small. But your body remembers strength, Misha. It just needs reminding." Eden threw the punch exactly as taught, feeling the satisfying impact against the bag. "I was strong once, before him." "You never stopped being strong." Maria's eyes were fierce with conviction. "You survived. That takes more strength than any punch." The physical training filled only part of her days. Eden continued managing the ranch books, learning the business inside and out. Graham trusted her judgment more and more, including her in decisions about cattle sales and land management. One evening, as they reviewed contracts in his office, he said casually, "The cattle auction in San Antonio next month. You should handle it." Eden looked up sharply. "Alone? You know livestock values better than anyone here now." His faith in her abilities wasn't flattery. Graham didn't believe in empty praise. "Besides, Rodriguez and Pete will go with you." The old Eden would have declined, made excuses. This new Eden, the one who could throw a punch and ride for hours and negotiate grazing rights, simply nodded. "I'll start preparing the listings." Later that night, unable to sleep, Eden wandered to the barn. She found Graham there, brushing down his stallion after a late fence check. "Trouble sleeping?" he asked, not looking up, thinking too much. She picked up a spare brush, moving to the horse's other side. They worked in comfortable silence, the horse's content nickering the only sound. What if he comes to the auction? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Graham's hands stilled. "Then you'll handle it, and you won't be alone." I used to dream about running into him somewhere. In those dreams, I was always frozen, helpless. She kept brushing, drawing courage from the repetitive motion. Now I dream about it, and I'm standing tall. Sometimes I'm on Bonnie, sometimes I'm just me, but I'm never helpless. Dreams change when we do. Graham moved around the horse, standing before her. You're not the same woman he broke. No, Eden agreed softly. I'm not. Something shifted in Graham's expression. Pride, maybe, or something deeper. But before either could speak, the horse nudged them apart, demanding attention. They laughed, the moment breaking like dawn over the hills. But something remained, a warmth in Eden's chest that had nothing to do with fear or strength or survival. That night she added another entry to her growing list of small victories, learning to trust. Not just her own strength, but the strength of others, of family, of a man whose quiet faith in her helped her rebuild her faith in herself. Outside her window, a whip-poor-will called into the darkness. Eden smiled, remembering Maria's words about her body remembering strength. Her heart, it seemed, was remembering how to hope. The Texas spring painted the ranch's hills with wildflowers, bluebonnets, and Indian paintbrush, spreading like nature's own patchwork quilt. Eden found Graham standing in the middle of it all one morning, a handful of flowers in his weathered hands. He looked almost embarrassed when she approached. Sarah loved these, he said quietly. Used to fill the house with them every spring. Eden understood his unspoken question. We should pick some for their graves. His relief was visible. Together they gathered flowers in comfortable silence, their hands occasionally brushing. Each touch sent warmth through Eden's skin, a feeling both thrilling and terrifying. Jenny used to make chains of them, Graham said suddenly. Would spend hours out here, weaving flowers together. Sarah called her our wildflower child. Eden smiled, picturing it. My grandmother taught me how to make those chains. I could show you if you'd like. For Jenny, Graham's eyes met hers, filled with an emotion she wasn't ready to name. I'd like. That. They sat among the flowers, Eden demonstrating how to split the stems and thread them together. Graham's large hands were surprisingly gentle with the delicate blooms. Clayton never understood things like this, Eden found herself saying. Called it a waste of time. Said I was childish for wanting to make things beautiful. Graham's jaw tightened, as it always did at mentions of Clayton. Some men are threatened by beauty, by joy. Says more about them than the things they mock. Eden added another flower to her chain. I used to think I deserved it. His mockery, his anger. Thought if I could just be better, try harder. Eden. Graham's voice was rough with emotion. She looked up to find him watching her intently. You deserve wildflowers, joy, everything. The weight of his words hung in the spring air between them. Eden's heart thundered in her chest as Graham slowly, carefully reached out to tuck a bluebonnet behind her ear. The moment stretched like honey in sunlight. Then a meadowlark called overhead, breaking the spell. They both pulled back, suddenly conscious of how close they'd drawn. We should... Graham cleared his throat. The flowers... For Sarah and Jenny. Eden nodded, gathering their makeshift bouquets. The walk to the family cemetery was quiet, but charged with unspoken words. As they laid the flowers on the grave, Eden felt Graham's struggle. The grief that still lived in him, warring with something new, something that might be hope. They would want you to be happy, she said softly. To live fully. I know. His voice was barely a whisper. Took me a long time to believe it. Later that afternoon, Eden found Maria in the kitchen, humming as she prepared dinner. The older woman took one look at her face and smiled knowingly. About time, was all she said. What do you mean? Mija, I've watched you both dancing around your feelings for months now, like two scared colts afraid to come in from the storm. Eden sank into a chair. It's complicated. Love usually is. Maria continued chopping vegetables. But that doesn't make it wrong. I'm not ready. But even as she said it, Eden wasn't sure if it was true anymore. Ready for what? To be happy? To let someone care for you? Maria's knife stilled. Graham Holt is a good man, and you, my dear, are exactly what his heart needs to remember how to beat properly again. Before Eden could respond, boots sounded. On the porch, Graham appeared in the doorway, his expression softening when he saw her. Eden, could you help me check the new foal? Something about her gait worries me. Of course. She stood, trying to ignore Maria's knowing smile. In the stable, the foal pranced around her mother, showing no signs of distress. Eden turned to Graham, questioning. He had the grace to look sheepish. Maybe I was being overcautious. Maybe you just wanted company. Their eyes met, and this time neither looked away. The air grew thick with possibility. A truck horn blared from the main road, shattering the moment. Just as well, Eden thought. Some feelings needed time to bloom like wildflowers after winter rain. That night, she placed the flower chain she'd made on her windowsill, where moonlight transformed it into a silver crown. In the distance, coyotes sang to the stars, their voices full of wild joy. Eden touched the dried bluebonnet Graham had tucked behind her ear, now pressed between the pages of her journal. Sometimes love grew like wildflowers, not in neat garden. Rose, but in its own time, in unexpected places, surviving against all odds. She was learning to let it grow. The morning mail brought more than just bills and invoices. Eden found it in the ranch's mailbox, Clayton's wedding ring, threaded through a piece of twine like a macabre pendant. A note accompanied it. Remember your vows, wife, till death. Or do us part. Her hands didn't shake this time. Progress, she thought grimly, sliding the ring into her pocket before anyone could see. But Graham knew something was wrong the moment he walked into the office. He'd gotten too good at reading her. Eden? She placed the ring and note on the desk between them. Graham's expression darkened as he read, his jaw clenching in that way she'd come to recognize as controlled anger. He was here, Graham said quietly. On my land. Our land, Eden corrected without thinking. Their eyes met, the weight of that casual hour hanging between them. Graham reached across the desk, his hand covering hers. Yes, ours. The moment was broken by Rodriguez's urgent knock. Boss, you need to see this. They followed him to the north fence line. Fresh tire tracks cut through the mud, leading to a gate that now hung askew on its hinges. On the gatepost, scratched deep into the wood. Soon. Graham's voice was deadly calm. Get everyone together, now. Within an hour, Thunder Creek's entire family gathered in the main house. Ranch hands, their wives, even old Joe's teenage grandson who helped out on weekends. Maria served coffee while Graham laid out the situation. He's escalating, Eden explained, the ring heavy in her pocket. Clayton always was good at mind games. This is his way of saying he's in control. Like hell he is, old Joe spat. This is our home. He's got another think coming if he believes he can threaten one of ours. Lisa Rodriguez, who worked at the sheriff's office part-time, spoke up. We can file for a restraining order, but out. Here? She didn't need to finish. They all knew how long response times could be on rural roads. We adapt, Graham said simply. New security protocols. Nobody works alone. Radio check-ins every hour. Maria, I want you to stay at the main house. With Eden. Already moved my things, Maria nodded. Eden started to protest. She wouldn't hide while others protected her, but Graham's expression stopped her. This wasn't about protection. This was about family. Pete, Graham continued. Your brother still installs security systems? Yes, sir. I can have him out here tomorrow. Do it. Lisa, we'll need copies of Clayton's photo distributed. Rodriguez, check all the fences, document any signs of tampering. Joe, coordinate with the neighboring ranches. I want eyes everywhere. They moved with purpose, each person knowing their role. Eden watched them, these people who'd become her family, feeling a complex mix of guilt and gratitude. Stop that, Maria said softly beside her. Stop feeling responsible for his actions. I brought this trouble to your door. No, Mija, he brought this trouble. You brought us love, light, and better bookkeeping. Maria's attempt at humor drew a reluctant smile. Besides, you've seen how bored these cowboys get. A little excitement is good for them. Later that evening, Eden found Graham in the barn, methodically checking locks and windows. The setting sun painted everything in shades of gold and shadow. "I won't run," she said quietly. He paused, turning to face her. "I'd never ask you to, but you're worried. About you, always." The admission seemed to surprise him as much as her. "Eden, I know." She stepped closer, drawn by the warmth in his voice. "Me too." It wasn't quite a declaration, but it was enough for now. Graham's hand found hers, rough palm against smooth. "Skin, whatever comes," he said. "We face it together, all of us." Outside, the spring evening settled over Thunder Creek Ranch. New security lights blinked on, casting protective halos around the buildings. Ranch hands made their rounds in pairs, radios crackling with check-ins. Eden touched the pocketware. Clayton's ring sat like a dead weight. Once it had been a symbol of promises, false ones she knew now. But here, surrounded by true family, she felt those old chains falling away. Let Clayton come, she thought. He would learn what real promises looked like, what real love could do. In the paddock, Bonnie nickered softly, sensing her rider's presence. Eden smiled, remembering how far she'd come from that broken woman in the storm. Storm clouds were gathering, again on the horizon, but this time she wasn't alone. This time she was home. Eden stared at the legal documents spread across her desk. Divorce papers, restraining order applications, property division forms. Each page represented another step toward freedom, another chain breaking. "Everything's in order," Lisa Rodriguez assured her, pointing to the marked signature lines. "Judge Martinez is ready to expedite the process, given the circumstances." Eden's pen hovered over the first line. For a moment, she was back in that kitchen. Clayton's voice telling her she was nothing, would always be nothing. Then she thought of morning rides with Graham, Maria's self-defense lessons, the trust in old Joe's eyes when he handed her responsibility for the spring cattle sale. She signed. The ranch radio crackled. "Vehicle approaching the main gate, blue pickup unmarked." Rodriguez's voice was tight with warning. Eden's heart stuttered, then steadied. She knew that truck. "It's him," she said quietly. Graham appeared in the doorway, looking like a gathering. "Storm, stay inside." "No." Eden stood, gathering the signed papers. "I need to do this." Their eyes met in a silent battle of wills. Finally, Graham nodded. "We do this your way. But you're not facing him alone." Outside, Clayton's truck kicked. Up dust on the drive. Eden walked onto the porch, aware of Graham's solid presence behind her, of Rodriguez and Pete flanking the steps, of Maria watching from the window with a phone ready to call the sheriff. The truck stopped. Clayton stepped out, and Eden was surprised to find him smaller than she remembered. His attempt at a charming smile felt like a parody of the man she'd once loved. "There's my wife," he called as if this were a social visit. "Playing rancher with your new friends? Time to come home, Eden. This little adventure's gone on long enough." Eden descended the steps, steel in her spine. The divorce papers were a shield in her hands. "I am home," she said clearly. "You have no power here, Clayton." His smile slipped. "That's where you're wrong, sweetheart. You're my wife. You belong—" "I belong to myself." Eden's voice cut through his like a blade. "These are divorce papers. You're going to sign them." Clayton laughed, but there was an edge of uncertainty in it. He wasn't used to this version of her, straight-backed, clear-eyed, unafraid. "Or what? You'll set your cowboy boyfriend on me?" He sneered at Graham. "That's my wife you're hiding behind, friend." "She's not hiding." Graham's voice was desert dry. "And she's not your wife, not anymore." Clayton's face darkened. He took a step forward but stopped when Rodriguez and Pete moved closer. "You think these people care about you?" Clayton's voice turned wheedling. "They're using you, Eden, just like everyone else. Remember what I told you? You're nothing without me." "No." Eden took another step forward. "You're nothing without someone to control. I see that now. She pulled his wedding ring from her pocket, let it fall in the dust. "You left this as a threat, but it's just metal, Clayton, like your promises, like your power over me. You stupid bitch." Clayton lunged forward, but Eden was ready. Maria's training took over. She sidestepped his grab, used his momentum against him. Clayton stumbled, finding himself facing not just Eden, but the entire ranch family who'd moved to surround him. "Last chance," Eden said calmly. "Sign the papers, leave my home, and never come back, or I press charges for trespassing, stalking, and assault. Judge Martinez is very interested in your recent activities." Clayton's eyes darted around, seeing no escape. His shoulders slumped, not in surrender but in temporary retreat. "Fine," he spat. "You want to play it this way? We'll play it this way." He snatched the papers, scrawled his signature. "But this isn't over." "Yes," Eden said softly. "It is." She watched his truck disappear in a cloud of dust, feeling neither triumph nor fear, just peace, and the solid warmth of family around her. Graham's hand found hers, squeezed gently. "You did good." "We did good," she corrected, looking at her people. Maria wiping proud tears, Rodriguez radioing the all clear, Pete already moving to check the grounds. That evening, Eden sat on the porch, watching. The sun paint Thunder Creek's hills in shades of gold. The signed papers lay on her lap, no longer a shield but a key, unlocking her future. Maria brought her tea, settled beside her. "What are you thinking, Mija?" "About chains," Eden said thoughtfully. "How the heaviest ones are the ones we put on ourselves, the ones that make us believe we're not strong enough to break free. And now," Eden smiled, touching the papers that declared her free, "now I know better." In the distance, a whip-poor will called, not a lonely sound anymore, but a song of independence, of strength, of home. The old oak chest in Graham's study held generations of Holt family history. Eden watched as he searched through it, finally withdrawing a small velvet box. "My mother's ring," he explained, holding it as if it might shatter. "Sarah wore it until, well, after I couldn't bear to look at it. But lately," he trailed off, lost in thought. Eden waited, sensing the importance of this moment. "Lately," he continued softly, "I've been thinking about what Sarah would say, about how some things deserve a second chance at joy." The evening. Sun painted the study in amber light, catching the diamond's facets as Graham opened the box. The ring was beautiful, vintage gold with delicate filigree work, speaking of history and hope in equal measure. "Graham," Eden breathed, understanding. "Dawning. I'm not asking, not yet." His voice was gentle but certain. "We both know timing matters, healing matters. But I wanted you to know that when you're ready, if you're ever ready, this belongs to you." Eden touched the ring with trembling fingers, remembering another ring thrown in the dust just days ago. The contrast struck her deeply. "When I first came here," she said carefully, "I was broken, running. I thought I'd never trust again, never." She met his eyes. "Never love again." Graham's breath caught at the word they'd both been dancing around for months. "But you," Eden continued, "you never tried to fix me. You just gave me space to fix myself. Time to remember who I was." "Who you are," he corrected softly. "The strongest person I know." Eden closed the ring box gently, but didn't hand it back. "Keep it safe for me. I want to do this right. Not because I'm running from the past, but because I'm running toward the future." Graham's smile, not his almost smile, but a real full one, lit his entire face. "We have time." A knock interrupted them. Maria stood in the doorway, eyes twinkling as if she knew exactly what she'd walked in on. "Dinner's ready," she announced. "And before you ask, yes, I made enough for the whole crew. They're already gathering on the back porch." The evening unfolded, like a cherished photograph. The ranch family sharing food and laughter, children playing tag in the twilight, old Joe telling stories of cattle drives past. Eden sat beside Graham, their shoulders touching, comfortable in the knowledge that some things didn't need rushing. Later, They walked to the stables for the evening check. The horses nickered soft greetings, and Eden smiled at how much this place, these routines, had become her life. "I love you," Graham said suddenly, simply, as if stating a fact as obvious as the stars above Thunder Creek. "Have for a while now." Eden turned to him, moonlight silvering his features. "I love you too." The words felt right, natural as breathing. Have for a while now. His kiss, when it came, was gentle as morning light breaking over the hills. Eden leaned into it, into him, feeling pieces of her heart she'd thought forever. Broken, clicking back into place, they broke apart at the sound of muffled giggles. Maria's youngest granddaughter peeked around the stable door, eyes wide with delight at catching them. "Abuela!" she called, running toward the house. "You were right! They were kissing!" Graham chuckled, resting his forehead against Eden's. "Well, that'll be around the ranch by breakfast." "Good," Eden said firmly. "No more hiding, no more fear." That night, unable to sleep, Eden walked to the family cemetery. The moonlight turned Sarah's headstone to silver, and for the first time, Eden spoke to her directly. "I'll take care of him," she promised softly. "And Jenny's memory, they'll always be part of who he is, who we are together. I hope you'd understand." A warm breeze stirred the wildflowers they'd planted, carrying the scent of sage and promise. Eden touched the empty space on her left hand, thinking of Graham's mother's ring waiting in its velvet box. Not yet, but soon. Back at the house, Graham stood on the porch waiting. He held out his hand and Eden took it, letting him pull her close. "Okay?" he asked. Eden smiled, thinking of how far they'd both come, from grief and fear to this moment, this love built on understanding and trust and time. "More than okay," she said. "I'm home." Above them, stars wheeled in the vast Texas sky. On the wind came the call of coyotes, singing their wild songs of family and belonging. Eden leaned into Graham's embrace, knowing that sometimes the best love stories aren't about whirlwind romance, but about two broken people healing together, finding strength in each other's scars, building something beautiful from the ashes of what was lost. The sheriff's badge caught the morning sun as Lisa Rodriguez's brother, Deputy James Martinez, delivered the news that changed everything. "Clayton's been spotted in town," he said grimly. "Drinking. Talking wild about what's his and what's been stolen, and he bought a gun yesterday." Eden felt Graham tense beside her, but her own voice remained steady. "Did he make any specific threats? Enough for me to post a patrol car near the ranch." James touched his badge unconsciously. "But out here, response times are slow," Graham finished. "We know," the deputy nodded. "I've got eyes on him, but legally can't hold him until he actually does something." After James left, Graham turned to Eden. "Maybe you should stay in town for a few days." "No." Eden's response was immediate. "I won't let him drive me from my home again. Besides," she managed a small smile, "Maria taught me well." As if summoned, Maria appeared with Rodriguez and old Joe. One look at their faces told Eden they'd heard everything. "The hands are doubling up on patrols," Rodriguez reported. "Pete's checking the security cameras. No one works alone." Old Joe's weathered face was grim. "Should we cancel the afternoon cattle sale?" "No," Eden said firmly. "We run this ranch, not fear, not Clayton." Graham studied her face, seeing the strength there. "Okay, but we do it smart. Rodriguez, you and Pete stay with Eden. Joe, coordinate. The other hands." "Maria—" "I'm not leaving," Maria interrupted. "Don't even try." The afternoon unfolded with false normalcy. Buyers arrived for the cattle sale, unaware of the tension thrumming beneath Thunder Creek's peaceful surface. Eden led the negotiations masterfully, securing prices that would have made Graham's father proud. It happened just as the last trailer pulled away. A shot cracked across the yard, sending everyone diving for cover. Clayton's voice, slurred with alcohol and rage, carried from behind a parked truck. "Come out, Eden. Time to remind you what you are." Eden met Graham's eyes across the space between them. In that moment, something passed between them. Trust, love, understanding. "Clayton, she called, staying behind the concrete water trough. "Put the gun down. Or what, your cowboy gonna save you?" Another shot, wild, hitting the barn wall. "He can watch while I take what's mine." Graham's face was thunderous, but Eden's slight head shake held him in place. This was her battle. "I was never yours," she said clearly, projecting her voice across the yard. "You never owned me. You just made me forget who I was for a while." "Shut up!" Clayton's voice cracked. "You're nothing without me, nothing." "No." Eden stood slowly, keeping her movements calm. "I'm everything I was always meant to be, everything you tried to destroy." She saw him then, stumbling from behind the truck, gun wavering. The man who had once terrorized her dreams looked small now, pathetic in his drunken rage. "You're going to kill me, Clayton. Add murder to stalking and assault. That badge on Deputy Martinez's chest isn't just for show." Clayton's eyes darted wildly, finally registering the ranch hands who had silently moved to surround him. "James." Martinez stepped out from behind a horse trailer, weapon drawn. "Put it down, son," the deputy ordered. "Don't make this worse." For a terrible moment, Clayton's gun swung toward Eden. She stared him down, unflinching. In his eyes, she saw the moment he realized he'd lost, not just today, but every day since she'd found the strength to leave. The gun dropped. James moved in swiftly with handcuffs, while Rodriguez kicked the weapon away. "Eden Morales," Clayton spat as they led him away. "You'll regret—" "No," she cut him off. "I'm not Eden Morales anymore. Haven't been since the day I found my way home to Thunder Creek." Graham was beside her then, solid as an oak. Maria appeared with a blanket, though. Eden wasn't shaking. Old Joe began organizing the hands to secure the scene for evidence. "It's over," Graham said softly. Eden watched the patrol car disappear down the drive, taking Clayton and his poison away from her land, her family, her future. "No," she smiled, taking Graham's hand. "It's just beginning." That evening, after the statements were given and the hands had celebrated with Maria's special occasion whiskey, Eden stood in the family cemetery. The setting sun painted Sarah and Jenny's headstone in shades of amber and rose. "I did it," she whispered. "I stood strong, found my voice." She touched the stone gently. "Found love again, like you'd want him to." The breeze carried the scent of sage and freedom. Somewhere in the distance, coyotes began their evening chorus, not a cry of loneliness now, but a song of victory, of family, of home. Graham's steps crunched on gravel behind her. Without turning, Eden reached back. His hand found hers, warm and sure as the Texas earth beneath their feet. Together, they watched darkness soften into starlight over Thunder Creek Ranch, knowing that sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting battles. It's choosing love, choosing trust, choosing to build something beautiful from the ashes of what was lost. The new house keys felt warm in Eden's palm as she stood before the small cottage at the edge of Thunder Creek's property. Graham had mentioned it casually over breakfast. The old foreman's house, empty since old Joe moved closer to town. "It needs work," he said, watching her face. "But it's yours if you want it, your own space." Eden turned the keys over, understanding what he was offering. Not distance, but independence. The right to choose closeness rather than need it. "The roof's solid," Graham continued. "Foundation's good. Everything else we can build together," Eden finished. Their eyes met across the kitchen table, both remembering a broken woman in a storm, seeking shelter. How far they'd come since then. Maria appeared with fresh coffee and knowing eyes. "I have curtains that would fit those windows perfectly, if you want them." The courthouse hallway felt longer than it had any right to be. Eden's heels clicked against marble as she walked beside Lisa Rodriguez, final divorce papers in hand. Clayton took the plea deal. Lisa reported, 3 years for stalking and assault, with mandatory counseling. The restraining order is permanent. Eden nodded, remembering Clayton's face as they led him away from Thunder Creek. The rage and possession were gone, leaving only a small man. With smaller dreams, Judge Martinez smiled when Eden entered her chambers. "Miss Woods," she said, using Eden's maiden name for the first time in years. "These are the last documents. Once signed, you're legally free." The pen felt light as air. Eden signed with steady hands, each stroke a declaration of independence. Outside the courthouse, thunder rolled across Texas skies. But these storms didn't frighten Eden anymore. They reminded her of beginnings. The ranch hands helped move her things to the cottage, making a celebration of it. Rodriguez's wife brought enchiladas. Old Joe's grandson practiced his guitar on the porch. Pete's children ran through empty rooms, playing hide-and-seek. "It's not much yet," Eden apologized as Maria hung those promised curtains. Mija, Maria, turned, hands on hips. "It's everything. It's yours." Graham arrived last, carrying a wrapped package. He waited until the others had gone, leaving them alone in what would become Eden's living room. "A housewarming gift," he said simply. Inside the package, Eden found a handcrafted wooden sign. "Eden's Place," burned into oak, decorated with carved wildflowers. "You made this?" "Jenny taught me wood burning, believe it or not." His voice held old grief, but newer joy. Said her daddy needed a hobby besides brooding. Eden traced the letters, feeling the love carved into each one. "Help me hang it." They placed it above the front door together. Standing back to admire it, Graham slipped, his arm around her waist. "I know what today means," he said quietly. "The divorce papers, this place, you building a life that's completely yours." Eden leaned into him, understanding the question he wasn't asking. "My life is mine now," she agreed, "which means I get to choose who to share it with." That evening, Eden sat on her new porch, watching. Sunset paint Thunder Creek's hills. The cottage windows glowed with warmth. Curtains Maria had hung dancing in the breeze. Through one window, she could see Graham in her kitchen, making coffee with the easy comfort of a man who knew he was welcome. Deputy Martinez's patrol car rolled past on his evening rounds, his wave friendly rather than worried now. In the distance, ranch hands moved cattle to night pastures, their calls carrying on the wind. Eden touched the keyring, holding both her new house keys and the key to the main ranch house Graham had given her months ago. 2 spaces, both hers, both home. Maria's voice drifted from the kitchen, gently scolding Graham about his coffee-making technique. Their laughter mingled with the evening sounds of the ranch. Horses nickering, crickets singing, life moving forward in its own sweet time. The divorce papers lay on her new coffee table, next to the restraining order and Clayton's old wedding ring. Tomorrow she'd file them away, not to forget, but to remember how far she'd come, how far she could still go. Graham appeared in the doorway, holding 2 coffee cups. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Eden smiled, making room for him on the porch. "Swing. Just thinking about storms, how sometimes they destroy things, and sometimes they blow you right where you need to be." He handed her a cup, settling beside her. Together, they watched night fall over Thunder Creek Ranch, their ranch, where a woman once lost had finally found her way home. The new house keys felt warm in Eden's palm as she stood before the small cottage at the edge of Thunder Creek's property. Graham had mentioned it casually over breakfast, the old foreman's house, empty since old Joe moved closer to town. "It needs work," he said, watching her face. "But it's yours if you want it. Your own space." Eden turned the keys over, understanding what he was offering, not distance but independence, the right to choose closeness rather than need it. "The roof's solid," Graham continued. "Foundation's good. Everything else we can build together," Eden finished. Their eyes met across the kitchen table, both remembering a broken woman in a storm, seeking shelter. How far they'd come since then. Maria appeared with fresh coffee and knowing eyes. "I have curtains that would fit those windows perfectly, if you want them." The courthouse hallway felt longer than it had any right to be. Eden's heels clicked against marble as she walked beside Lisa Rodriguez, final divorce papers in hand. Clayton took the plea deal, Lisa reported. 3 years for stalking and assault, with mandatory counseling. The restraining order is permanent. Eden nodded, remembering Clayton's face as they led him away from Thunder Creek. The rage and possession were gone, leaving only a small man. With smaller dreams, Judge Martinez smiled when Eden entered her chambers. "Ms. Woods," she said, using Eden's maiden name for the first time in years. "These are the last documents. Once signed, you're legally free." The pen felt light as air. Eden signed with steady hands, each stroke a declaration of independence. Outside the courthouse, thunder rolled across Texas skies. But these storms didn't frighten Eden anymore. They reminded her of beginnings. The ranch hands helped move her things to the cottage, making a celebration of it. Rodriguez's wife brought enchiladas. Old Joe's grandson practiced his guitar on the porch. Pete's children ran through empty rooms, playing hide-and-seek. "It's not much yet," Eden apologized as Maria hung those promised curtains. Mija, Maria, turned, hands on hips. "It's everything. It's yours." Graham arrived last, carrying a wrapped package. He waited until the others had gone, leaving them alone in what would become Eden's living room. "A housewarming gift," he said simply. Inside the package, Eden found a handcrafted wooden sign. "Eden's Place," burned into oak, decorated with carved wildflowers. "You made this?" "Jenny taught me wood burning, believe it or not." His voice held old grief, but newer joy. "Said her daddy needed a hobby besides brooding." Eden traced the letters, feeling the love carved into each one. "Help me hang it." They placed it above the front door together. Standing back to admire it, Graham slipped, his arm around her waist. "I know what today means," he said quietly. "The divorce papers, this place, you building a life that's completely yours." Eden leaned into him, understanding the question he wasn't asking. "My life is mine now," she agreed, "which means I get to choose who to share it with." That evening, Eden sat on her new porch, watching. Sunset paint Thunder Creek's hills. The cottage windows glowed with warmth. Curtains Maria had hung dancing in the breeze. Through one window, she could see Graham in her kitchen, making coffee with the easy comfort of a man who knew he was welcome. Deputy Martinez's patrol car rolled past on his evening rounds, his wave friendly rather than worried now. In the distance, ranch hands moved cattle to night pastures, their calls carrying on the wind. Eden touched the key ring, holding both her new house keys and the key to the main ranch house Graham had given her months ago. 2 spaces, both hers, both home. Maria's voice drifted from the kitchen, gently scolding Graham about his coffee-making technique. Their laughter mingled with the evening sounds of the ranch, horses nickering, crickets singing, life moving forward in its own sweet time. The divorce papers lay on her new coffee table, next to the restraining order and Clayton's old wedding ring. Tomorrow, she'd file them away, not to forget, but to remember how far she'd come, how far she could still go. Graham appeared in the doorway holding 2 coffee cups. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Eden smiled, making room for him on the porch swing. "Just thinking about storms, how sometimes they destroy things, and sometimes they blow you right where you need to be." He handed her a cup, settling beside her. Together they watched night fall over Thunder Creek Ranch, their ranch where a woman once lost had finally found her way home. 1 year to the day after that stormy night, when Eden first collapsed at Thunder Creek's fence line, she stood before a mirror in Sarah's old room. Maria fussed with the simple white dress, while Lisa Rodriguez adjusted the crown of wildflowers in Eden's hair. On the dresser sat a new family photograph, taken just that morning, Eden and Graham on horseback, surrounded by their ranch family. The contrast to that torn wedding photo from her past couldn't have been starker. This image showed not possession, but partnership. Not isolation, but community. Not fear, but love. "Something borrowed," Maria said softly, fastening Sarah's delicate gold bracelet around Eden's wrist. Graham had found it in the oak chest, wrapped in tissue with a note in Sarah's handwriting, for the next love story to grace Thunder Creek. "She knew," Eden whispered, touching the bracelet. "Somehow, She knew there would be healing here. The wedding wasn't grand, just family and close friends gathered in Thunder Creek's wildflower meadow. Old Joe had spent weeks crafting an arch from weathered ranch wood. The Robinson sisters had woven local flowers through it. Pete's children scattered blue bonnet petals along the path. Graham waited beneath the arch, looking more nervous than Eden had ever seen him. But when their eyes met across the meadow, his face transformed with that full, real smile she'd come to treasure. Judge Martinez, who had granted Eden's divorce and restraining order, now stood ready to perform a very different ceremony. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. Eden walked alone toward her future husband, not because there was no one to give her away, but because she chose to give herself. Each step carried her past the shadows of her former life into the bright sunshine of the one she'd built. Their vows were simple, honest as the love between them. No fancy promises, just truth. "I choose you," Graham said, his voice rough with emotion. "Today and every day, through storms and sunshine, I choose you. I choose." "Us?" Eden responded, squeezing his hands. "The family we've built, the love we've grown, the future we'll share. I choose us," Maria cried. Old Joe pretended he wasn't crying. The ranch hand's children fidgeted in their Sunday best, eager for the barbecue to follow. When Judge Martinez pronounced them husband and wife, the cheer that went up could probably be heard in town. Graham kissed her like a man who'd found his way home after a long journey, which Eden supposed they both had. The celebration lasted well into the night. Tables groaned with potluck dishes. Old Joe played his guitar, while Rodriguez's teenage son showed off his fiddle skills. Children chased fireflies, and more than one couple sneaked away for romantic walks in the moonlight. Later, when the party had wound down and their guests had gone home, Eden and Graham walked to the family cemetery. They placed a bouquet of wildflowers on Sarah and Jenny's grave, then stood together under the star-filled Texas sky. "Thank you," Graham said softly to the stone, "for teaching me that love doesn't end. It just changes form." Eden leaned into his embrace, thinking of all the twists and turns that had led them here. "Sarah would be proud," she said, "of how you've kept Thunder Creek thriving, of how you opened your heart again. She'd be proud of you too." Graham kissed her temple, "of how you've made this place even stronger." They walked back toward their home, the main house where they'd chosen to live together while keeping Eden's cottage as a reminder of independence within partnership. Light spilled from windows where Maria was probably already planning tomorrow's breakfast. In the barn, horses nickered soft greetings. The night air carried the scent of sage and promise. Somewhere in the distance, coyotes sang their wild songs of family and belonging. Eden touched her wedding ring. Sarah's ring, now hers, a circle of love continuing through time. "Happy?" Graham asked, though he knew the answer. Eden smiled, thinking of the scared, broken woman she'd been, and the strong, loved woman she'd become. More than happy. Complete. Thunder Creek Ranch spread out around them, a legacy of love and labor, old pain and new joy, loss and healing. Their home, their future, their ever after, built not on fairy tales, but on the solid foundation of two people who had learned that the greatest love stories aren't about perfect beginnings. They're about choosing each other every day, about building something beautiful from broken pieces, about finding home in each other's hearts and keeping the door open for whatever storms or sunshine tomorrow might bring, together.